It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today is a little bit different style podcast episode. We talk about books and things a lot within our client community in terms of like leadership, personal development, all kinds of different areas in that regard. And we actually used to do a book club internally, which I loved so much. But Jess and I wanted to share some of our favorite books that we've like read over the years that were just the most like impactful for us. Some are like training related, health related. Some are just like personal growth type of things. Not necessarily any fun ones in this list, at least. And we'll list them all out in the podcast episode description for you too. But we wanted to share like some of our favorites and like the context of them and why they were helpful for us, because there are some books that I know that you and I discuss certain things that like sometimes we like regurgitate information we don't even realize because obviously we've learned it and retained it and live by it. But there are some that I think we like refer to a lot, maybe consciously or subconsciously. So I think it would be cool for people to hear like what we've read, especially because people who are listening to this episode are listening to all the other episodes and can obviously learn and grow in that manner too. So we have a lot of overlap. We each did our like own independent list, and then obviously, of course, we've read most of the same books. So we'll kind of touch on those like most importantly. But if you could pick one, Jess, do you think you could pick one?
I mean, I think in terms of coaching and something I pull from most as a coach, it would be a tie between Atomic Habits and The Compound Effect. Mm-hmm. Specific for behavior change. I think that those two have been most impactful. But again, that's that particular category of have made me a better coach and have made me better at consistency in my own inputs, like changing my own behaviors. I think those two are the most impactful. What about you?
So Atomic Habits I have like a rotation of books that I send to clients, and Atomic Habits is in the rotation. Compound Effect is in the rotation. And then, I should have this like on hand ready to go now that
You've shared like 13 habits of mentally strong people before.
Yes,
right?
That was one of them. And there's one other one that I'm totally drawing a brain fart on. And I really should have had this ready to go. But there's another habits-based one that, and I'm sure we'll cover it in the list. I just don't have it in front of me, but it's in the rotation. But Atomic Habits is like tried and true. Like if I could pick one book that I think describes our coaching,
like what we do,
it's that for sure. And it's funny, like I think my coaching evolved, our coaching evolved, fueled coaching evolved, not like based on that book, but it was funny when I finally read that book, I was like, holy cow, like I cannot believe how aligned we coach with Atomic Habits. Me not having read it up until that point, however many years ago it was now. But that was definitely one of the most like, that is like the tried and true like behavior change in any area of your life.
You can apply it. Yeah. It gives you like the systems that you can then apply your own choices to. And again, like you said, it's not like we read that and said, okay, this is how we're going to coach. It's like all the different, like your health coaching, your board certified health coach thing through Precision Nutrition. A lot of the systems that they teach align with it. Atomic Habits is almost like a summary of all the different courses that we've taken on psychology and people change type stuff. And then it is in one succinct book. So I would agree. That's a really good one. So I guess what we did here is we kind of broke it down by topic. But at the end of the day, we want to encourage people to, like, there's so many resources out there now. You don't have to gain the experience directly to close your knowledge gaps, right? You can read books. You can watch YouTube videos, like obviously validate that the information you're getting is coming from like a
good source.
A good source. Yeah. You're not just listening to anybody on TikTok, but the goal here is you can actually expand your brain and you can change yourself just by closing these gaps by reading from people who have more experience than you. Right. So anyway, we broke it into topics. The first one is the books are about habits, discipline, or momentum. And those books had those two in there. So The Compound Effect Atomic Habits, Chop Wood, Carry Water. Those are the three that were on there. We already talked about Atomic Habits. The compound effect is really about habit tracking and checking in with yourself and like becoming 1% better. So as long as we're moving in the right direction, over time, there will be exponential change, right? So focus on putting in a rep. Put in the reps, get better at the movement, right? After 2 years, after 5 years, there are exponential outcomes, similar to like if you were investing in it, there's a higher percentage of growth year over year. The same thing comes with our choices. So that's what that book is about. After I read that, I actually also started using a habit tracking journal that Darren Hardy made, and it's called the Living Your Best Year Ever Journal. And now I think there's like a million habit trackers out there. But at the time, that was like the first habit tracking journal I ever used. And it was really helpful because it has you look back at your week every single week. Okay, let's come up with an action plan now for the following week. And let's assess and then shift our attention. Okay, quarterly, let's reassess. It's okay if goals change. Now my inputs change, right? So that's kind of the summary there. Do you want to do Chop Wood, Carry Water? I have not read that one.
So Chop Wood, Carry Water, and there's another one I was going to like loop into that. Oh my gosh, tangent. The Gap and the Gain is on my list. That's the other one.
I had to read that for my last job.
That is one that I've been most recently sending to clients. So I was going to loop back to that. But the Gap and the Gain is another one about kind of like reverse engineering, almost like your goals and your progress. And instead of like getting frustrated at failure, more data driven, setting milestones, being grateful for what you've done and accomplished, but also still working towards something. What's that?
Sorry, I'm going on a tangent. I was getting that mixed up with another book that I had read. Never mind.
Okay, so then Chop Wood, Carry Water is a super short book. I actually just had my 12-year-old read it because he was like asking about books. I'm like, here, try this one. And I was just kind of curious to see how he would perceive a book like that. But it's very like short, sweet, to the point, and it's really just about loving the process and finding meaning in the mundane things that we do every day. And just working hard, even when you're not necessarily like seeing an instant gratification or reward or anything along those lines, when it's not always pretty.
The unsexy, like middle, the work of what gets the outcomes, because everybody
work hard. Yeah.
Everybody just wants the flashy outcomes.
Yes. So that was super helpful. And then on the topic of a child reading a book, the other one I was going to like loop into that is The Energy Bus is so
I love that book.
I think everyone should read that, honestly, like once a year, because I think it's such a good reminder about the energy that you give out to the world, but also the energy that you're receiving and you have around yourself, and the things that you say and the things that you think, and the way that you perceive things. And there's a kid's version of it. Mason's being almost 13. It's a little bit young for him. Like it's definitely.
And the adult one, the regular Energy Bus, is such an easy read. I would give it to a middle schooler or teenager and it would still resonate, even though the guy writing it is a business person. Yeah. The concept is, it's an analogy of him getting on this bus and the bus driver teaching him lessons along the way. And it's really like a boundaries book of like, what are you going to let on your bus? And what are we going to not allow in our space? Because it doesn't help us. It's not productive for us to think that way. It's not productive for us to get drugged down these paths of complaining or gossiping or whatever. That's one of my top three, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also in that category of like short, easy reads is same thing. I had my husband and my kiddo both read this, is Who Moved My Cheese?
I need to reread that. That's a good one.
So good. And it's like, honestly, I think if anyone reads any book after they walk away from this episode, please read Who Moved My Cheese, because it ties in so heavily to like the overarching theme of like the message that Jess and I are trying to portray on this podcast. And it's about change and progress. And essentially the concept is that there are like multiple mice and they're trying to get cheese. They're trying to survive and make it. And one of them is like really hung up on old methods and this worked for me before, almost kind of thing. And the other one's like being adaptable and is like, I'm going to go out and take a risk and try something new. And it paid off immensely. And the other mouse died because
it's like a flexibility. It's like a lesson in flexibility and adaptation.
Yeah. And it's so applicable to everything in life and just being an adaptable human. And I think that is such an underrated skill in life. So I wanted to loop that in.
That's a really good, That
Yeah.
I think that was on my like runner-up list because I haven't read it recently, but it was impactful whenever I read it.
Yeah.
Okay, the next category, money, mission, ownership. One of my all-time favorites, again, I would put this in top 5 overall, like in my life, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in terms of being impactful. And this is a business and success type, like a money management type concept. They actually had a board game. Jill knows my dad, so this is funny. There's a board game called The Rat Race that Robert Kiyosaki also made for children so that parents could teach their kids about like making choices that pay off long term so that your money someday works for you rather than you having to always clock in, clock out for the rest of your life until you retire. So that is the concept there, is shifting your mindset to like learning about assets and liabilities and things like that rather than just working for the man until you retire is kind of the concept.
Yeah. No, I love Rich Dad Poor Dad. Same thing. That's another like short, sweet, to the point that can really like open your eyes and change your perspective on money. And I think we all like money mindset is interesting. And I definitely think what we're sharing today in terms of this list, like these are great places to start. I think this is obviously not a financial advice podcast, but I think it can expand your thought process into other areas if that's something that you want to work on. So
it's actually funny the amount of times, this has nothing to do with the book specifically, but the amount of times I reference that book when it comes to exercise modality also, because we always talk about like a lot of women will try to chase calories burned or do more cardio because, oh, I'm burning more calories right now. It's the same concept when it comes to our metabolism. Like clocking in and clocking out in terms of a short-term gain is when we're trying to burn calories to lose weight. Building muscle and speeding up your metabolism and improving your recovery are all things that actually are investments long term. You don't see the change on the scale or in your bank account right now, but it pays off. If you're doing that for the next 5 years, you're going to be way ahead of the people who are just clocking in and clocking out right now. In 5 years, in 10 years, it's going to compound. Again, off topic, but I think it is a relevant concept.
like the concept. Yeah, absolutely.
I loved The One Thing. So
I don't know if I've read that one.
There was another book that's called Essentialism, and I think The One Thing makes it more simple, and I like that. I liked that book too, but it's really about like really dialing in your focus and saying no to anything else that isn't the most important thing right now, because it's so easy for us to be brought down all these rabbit holes of all these different things that we should change or what. Okay, but what's the one thing that's going to make the biggest impact? Focus on that first. And again, I think that's very relevant to our clients. It's relevant to us, right? Like we know that, okay, well, I'm really dialed in with my nutrition and my training, but sleep is that one thing that if I dialed that in, it would change my whole life, right? The One Thing is about that concept. I also think that's helpful for coaches. A lot of times we end up overwhelming our clients unintentionally by educating or by allowing them to take us down rabbit holes with all their different questions. I always tell our coaching team, like, put the client's horse blinders on. What are the 1 or 2 most important things for them to focus on this week? That's what we need to wrap up our check-in videos with, right? That will help you become a better coach if you can learn to help your clients focus on the most important thing, because their outcomes will actually end up being better over time without them being overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And then the other one we have in this category that we both had on our list was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think I've read this one multiple times, probably. It's definitely been a while, but I think it's just I think just anybody can read that one.
Yep.
And really just living based on like I feel like what's true to you and what your priorities are, what your values are, and operating with like integrity too, I think is a big one, instead of like, I'm always I think being reactive is always a good lesson to revisit. Like, I feel like I tend to like drift into that territory, and I have to kind of like reel myself back of like, you're reacting, you're putting your nose in business where you don't even need to put your energy into these things. So like being an effective human, I think I feel like that 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and
oh my gosh, I forget the author, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
Are the two that are like tried and true, time and time, generation and generation again.
How to Win Friends and Influence. Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. Yeah. Like I feel like those two are tried and true classics that constantly help people in business, in life, in relationships. It can apply to so many different areas of just like becoming a more successful person. Yep. What else category wise is on our list?
So like
energy, health.
Yeah.
Like health books and things that specifically apply to like learning the science, I suppose, or like helping you actually change your habits. Bigger, Leaner, Stronger was actually a really big one for me. And he also has one called Thinner, Leaner, Stronger. This is Mike Matthews. Thinner, Leaner, Stronger, same freaking concepts, just marketed towards women because women are scared to build muscle.
Yeah.
But as a trainer, I felt like that really helped me to simplify my programming and focus on, again, the most important things. But he also really dives in very deeply to like muscle building versus fat loss phases versus maintenance. I think he oversimplifies it to some extent without considering metabolic adaptation over time. But like for any beginner or for any trainer, really for any trainers out there who want to support their clients in physique change, I think it's very effective. That's a really good book. And it changed my perspective from more bodybuilding type programming, more supersets, and we have to hit every muscle to like, hello, let's just train smarter and hit the big compound lifts a certain amount of times per week. Like, I feel like he simplified programming for me in a really effective way.
Yep. Those are same thing, like kind of I feel like new trainer, like Bibles, like I feel like everyone should kind of start with those. Some of the other like health type of books that I like, one of my favorites is The Body Keeps the Score. And this one kind of overlaps, which I read a lot of like, and I'm just realizing this now, but like nervous system, type of books, I guess. I love like the real sciencey stuff, but The Body Keeps Score. There's another sleep one that I didn't write down, but I know you have a sleep one on your list, but it's about like trauma and nervous system and how your body like that stuff doesn't just go away or disappear. It's the same thing with like your dieting history or whatever. Like the stuff just doesn't go away. Like we have to pay the price, essentially, good and bad.
That's a really good psychological one. Like it's really about like stress response and trauma and how our body holds on to it. The sleep ones that I have written down, I loved this one, Sean Stevenson. It's called Sleep Smarter. I think there was a co-author on it who is like a doctor who has written other books, and I forget her name. But that one was really the only book I had ever read that actually made me want to change my sleep. Like, the way that he messages it in such a simple way, you realize like, oh shoot, if I just do this for a month or two, like my whole life can improve. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker was the other one. Why We Sleep. Matthew Walker is like a PhD. He's a scientist and a researcher on sleep. So his is more scientific approach and like research says blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of episodes of like Huberman with Matt Walker. The Sleep Smarter one I felt was more digestible in terms of how do I apply this and actually want to change my behaviors, right? Like Matthew Walker gives you all the data so you understand the why. And then Sean Steven, the Sleep Smarter book I felt was just impactful where I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm ready to change now after reading this book.
Yep. No, I love that one. I feel like there are definitely some other like health ones. To be honest, I feel like I held back a little in this category because I feel like a lot of times in this arena, this is what we do for a living. I want to be mindful of some of those books can be conflicting or really need some context or really aren't like, there are great thyroid books. There are great gut health books. There are great fasting books and cycle related hormone type of books. But like, I want to be mindful. I think that education is beautiful, but I think sometimes we like pigeonhole ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I can add some of those to the list, but I didn't actually want to discuss them on the podcast for those.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's really smart. And that's kind of like what I was trying to say with Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. Even that book, I think Mike Matthews is a great coach. He has his own podcast. Like he's wonderful. Even that, I think he oversimplifies the context of a build and a cut phase, where somebody might look at it and just try to do the math themselves for their macros when really they might be adapted to something totally different and they don't know what to look for. So yeah, I agree. Context is everything. Yeah.
And then Jess and I are both book clubbing, which I'm behind on my chapters, need to catch up. But Jess and I are both reading together right now, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. But I genuinely think I love Joe Dispenza, and I feel like you either love him or you hate him. I love Joe Dispenza and I love his books. So we're currently reading that one right now. And again, I think it's very biology, neuroscience type, maybe a little bit of like spirituality, energy type of things mixed in. But I think they are, I think sometimes we don't fully understand ourselves, or it's like, I'm not motivated. Like, why am I not motivated? And it's just kind of like understanding those little things and being a little bit more in tune with yourself, can be really powerful. Like sometimes we just go through the motions and we just react and say like, this is just who I am, or this is just what I do. And it's like, well, understand that and just know that you can change anything at any time. So again, I like those very sciencey type of books. Joe Dispenza also does like meditation and retreats and all this really, really powerful nervous system regulation stuff too.
This was one that we have like a team that's helping us with our new business, and they challenged us and said, hey, go read this book because you guys are about to step into this new role that you've never been in before.
Like,
and I think
shed some stuff.
Again, I think this is great to apply to our clients and what you guys do. Not that you have to go read that book right now, but the concept of, hey, the person that you've always been to get to where you are now is not, you're going to need to level up in a different way if you want different outcomes. So stepping back and thinking, what's that chick look like? What's Jessie 2.0 in this new role look like? Because that's something I've never done in my life. And it's a little scary. And this is a big project that I'm undertaking. Can I really do it? Learning how to step back and say, oh, okay, what do I want that version of me to look like? Right. And I think that's kind of like that sort of book. It goes towards that concept.
Absolutely.
Okay, we already talked about, we had like leadership next, but I feel like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People fits in that. The Energy Bus fits in that. Some of these that we've already talked about fit in leadership and purpose type books.
Why by Simon Sinek is good. I think it can be a little fluffy, maybe. Like I feel like sometimes
this whole list to me makes me cringe.
Yeah, sometimes like
but I've read them.
That stuff is like a little cringy, fluffy. Like, what's your why? Like that feels icky to me, to be honest with you. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a purpose behind the things that you're doing, and I think it is important to have that. But I think the way you go about it is a little bit different. And Jess and I might be a little bit biased.
We are biased.
Where we like very science driven. Why are you suggesting this thing? How does it help? What is the data to support?
Or like, let's create a system. Once we know what the why is, okay, now let's create a system to attack it, because we don't want to only, let's just think about what the why is and that'll bring you back to be motivated. It's like, no, let's come up with a system that's actionable, right? But I do think
like very tangible type of thing. So
they are impactful for a lot of people, though. Start with why. The Brene Brown books, like I'm not a big, personally, it's fluffy for me, but I know it lands with a lot of people in terms of.
But I will say with her, like sometimes listening to her, or I'm drawing a blank on the other guy's name that I like to listen to, but sometimes like if I'm in a negative headspace or I am like in my fucking luteal and I just need like a good, like positive, fluffy injection. Tony Robbins is a little too fluffy for me. But these people are people that I would be like, all right, give me 5 minutes of like, get your shit together, get your head out of your ass type of energy. So I'm not at a place in life where I need this, but some people need a lot of that. Like if you feel like you get into negative spirals or your thought process tends to go that direction, you might need to constantly hear a lot of that stuff right now, or you might need that to build the belief in yourself. Whereas we tend to be very like self-motivated, driven, own your shit type of people. And some people need to get out of their own way first. So I think that's where our like discrepancy is with where we're at in life. I feel like that's fair.
And I also think it's sometimes helpful for me to read stuff like this to connect with people who are at a different place than
at
me.
that stage.
Like, whenever, what's her fate? Rachel Hollis's book came out. Everybody freaking loved that book. Girl, Wash Your Face.
Oh,
We're like, let that. I know. Well, I don't want to say that. And then it offends somebody because for some people that was really impactful. The Let Them by Mel Robbins right now. Everybody loves it. To me,
I refuse.
I can't. I mean, I read the first like chapter and a half. I was listening to it on Audible and I was like, I can't. I'm trying to do it so that I can relate to the clients who are listening to it. But to me, I'm like, give me a freaking system. I can't. But again, I think it's helpful to know what that does impact some people.
Yeah.
Once you're feeling motivated and rah-rah'd by that, now let's come up with systems together.
I think it's just the way that the
But I agree. I want to
delivered.
puke.
Yeah. It's definitely not how it's delivered because I feel like it's very like fluffy and like you got this and it's like cool.
But what are the actions? You never change. You're just reassured that you're
like,
fine going on the path you're on.
Positive energy now, but like, what do I do with it? Because that's gonna fade. It's just like motivation. Like, cool. That's not helpful.
We're on the same page about that. But yeah,
Beautiful.
I feel a little bad shitting on them because I do know they resonate.
They have a
with lot
why
of people.
behind it. That doesn't mean somebody can't read it. We still on our list.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we've already talked about some. Oh, okay. Consciousness, healing, like the inner journey, right? We already talked about breaking the habit. We already talked about the body keeps the score. I loved The Power of Now. Eckhart Tolle. He is like Mr. I don't know, Eastern philosophy woo-woo. I had to read this book I was in a Tibetan yoga class that was like an intensive.
Oh, this was the book.
Yeah. The class itself was impactful because I thought that yoga and meditation was just absolute nonsense and a waste of my time. And after 2 months in this thing, I had to go every other day for like a 2.5 hour yoga intensive. And we had to read this book as one of our assignments. It just made me totally change my perspective. And again, the concept is super fluffy, but it's about training your brain to pay attention to the present, which in the concept of the book is very like existential and, oh, you need to be here for the universe. The more I learn about the brain science of it all, the more important I believe that to be. So again, it was the first time I ever read about this concept that I believe to be a little fluffy and woo-woo. Once you start to implement it, it genuinely changes how you show up each day, your habits, all this other stuff. And it physically can help you change the neural pathways in your brain and put you in a parasympathetic, like safe place where your body can actually rest and recover. So I think there's a lot of value to it. I have not read that book since I was probably like 21. Like I haven't read it in a long time, but it was very, very impactful in terms of, it actually changed my perspective because I always thought of meditation or yoga as like a religious thing. So I was not interested. And now I see it as, it's a brain health thing to find stillness and be in the moment versus always checking off my next to-do list thing.
Also on this list, and she has a couple of books, Brianna Wiest or something. I have The Mountain Is You on there, which we did book club with a couple years ago within Fueled, but she also has, This Is How You Heal, The Pivot Year. The Pivot Year is cool because it's like a daily, super short and sweet like thing that you read where it's like, this is the message for today. Read it, absorb it, read a new one the next day. It's actually kind of hard to not keep going because some of them are like, oh, you're like, oh, that's a good one. But it's really about like self-sabotage, like why we do it, how we do it, how to overcome it, how to recognize it, which I think can be good. Those are probably, in my opinion, and in between like the super fluffy that we just talked about and these super sciencey, like tangible ones. I feel like hers have a little bit more basis to them, but still a little bit fluffy, positive thinking, not as like actionable necessarily. But I do think it helps you understand yourself a little bit better. And then in terms of like inner work, Dr. Nicole LaPera, she's the holistic psychologist on Instagram. You have to, actually, let me rephrase that. I have to be mindful consuming her content because I feel like you have to be careful, I think, making sure that you're not using messages that she gives as justification for your behaviors, but to understand and apply and become better from what you learn about yourself. But How to Do the Work is one of her books.
Oh, I've read that. Yeah.
So we did book club on one of them.
Oh, that's
I don't
why.
remember which
We
one.
did
Yeah.
book club on that. That's why yeah.
How to Meet Yourself is the second version that comes with like a journal and prompts that you do throughout reading the book, which is nice. But it's like nervous system regulation, trauma healing, reparenting, like inner child type of stuff, which I think you have to energetically be in a place that, again, you can consume that information and make it applicable. Otherwise, get a therapist, obviously, if you need help in that arena. But I think both of those are really great in terms of inner healing type of stuff.
I want to go back to the physical health stuff. Because I think this could be a good intro for me. I started reading it and I was like, okay, like we already know all these concepts where I kind of checked out a little bit. But I think for anybody who's interested in metabolic adaptation and like why you should spend time strength training and building muscle instead of chasing calories burned, Sal DiStefano from Mind Pump has a book. I forget what it's called, but I recommend that actually as I know I said bigger, leaner, stronger. I think bigger, leaner, stronger is great for the average
Is it the
trainer or
resistance
coach.
training revolution?
Yes, the resistance training revolution. I actually do recommend that if somebody is just curious about, well, why should I do this stuff? Because I don't see the results. Like, I actually think he does a good job simplifying it. So again, for coaches and trainers, it may feel redundant, but for anybody who's new and wants to understand that stuff, I feel like it's a good book.
Do you have any controversial books that you're reading that maybe aren't necessarily like personal development? I'm in a little bit of a rabbit hole right now with quantum physics.
I mean, I feel like Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is a little bit controversial.
It is,
controversial. Yeah. I feel like me saying The Power of Now is a little controversial in my world. Like in my brain's inner conflict of, okay, like, yeah, I don't know that I don't know. I feel like I always I really try to read different things. I obviously like nonfiction and I like personal development that actually gives me tangible tools. I'm not a big like fiction or philosophy type reader. But I think some of these are controversial in themselves.
That's true. They could be for anyone. I just started, and again, you obviously don't have to read this. I'm just sharing because I think it could be entertaining. And if somebody else likes to go down rabbit holes with me, then come on in. But Quantum Christianity is one that I just started.
Oh no, but I'm happy. I'll add it to my list right now.
Yeah, you would love that one. Quantum Christianity, and that's a religion one. So obviously, if like not everyone believes the same things, and totally cool. But just wanted to share it. And then another one that I
give us the spark notes.
So I'm in this like, and I feel like we have conversations about this, but it's about like the merging of like religion and quantum physics and how many parallels there are between these different worlds that I think a lot of people in religion might like, sometimes they look at science-y type of stuff and they're like, no, that's not how it works. And it's actually like you and I have talked about like the overlap of like meditation and yoga,
and God
reading
and the Bible saying, Bibles, be still and know that. Yeah. Like it's interesting.
The overarching, it's kind of like politics and stuff right now, how we have this, like these different sides. And it's like, yo, if we like zoom out and strip this down and remove like the extra shit and fluff that's shoved down our throats and in our brains, we're all on the same page. We all want the same shit. And it's kind of like that in a very zoomed out way of like how many parallels there are and how,
it's like naming it a different thing. It's like doing the same. A lot of these different, I'll say religions, but I think you and I have a lot of conversations about our faith. Like we believe that that God is a higher power than us and that there's other spiritual stuff going on that we cannot see, right? And if you put that in the language of a specific denomination of Christianity, they may call it, okay, there's spiritual warfare happening. Okay, if you put it in the concept of science, they may say, well, there's energy and blah, 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 blah being exchanged. And it's like, okay, but at the end of the day, there's some sort of truth here, right? So can we come together and talk about, wow, there's really a lot of power in us just moving forward with each other in love or in being less consumed by materialism. Like all of these truths go finding stillness, right? Whether you call it meditation or you're praying to God, both benefit the person doing it, right? So I think that is the controversial thing, is that,
and it's the belief in this like other thing that helps you like regulate and be present and be peaceful and all of it. So it's like questioning faith a little bit, but in like I don't know if you've ever had people say like, well, if God's real, then like, why does this happen? Or why did this happen to my mom or whatever? Why did this person get cancer and die when they were only whatever age? It's kind of like the overlap there of like the things that we sometimes we like blindly trust and believe and have faith in, whether it's religion or any other concept, and just like stripped down, I don't know, kind of like an open your eyes thing, which I love reading that stuff because it's a unique perspective that I haven't had. And I like to question things and I like to hear all angles of things. So I was like, oh, cool. That's
good. Yeah, no, me and Jill have a lot of discussions I'm like, okay, well, is it the power of prayer and the Holy Spirit working through me? And that's why I believe these positive things happen. And you might message it and call it energy and affirmations, right? But I'm calling it this thing.
Whatever you want. Yeah.
But I'm calling it this thing. Is it blasphemy for me to say it the way you're saying it, even though both of us are trying to get to more goodness, right? Like having those conversations. We have those conversations a lot.
Happiness. Yeah. Like who cares what the journey is, as long as you get there in the way that feels good for you. And there's no sense in arguing about what's right and what's wrong with people, because everyone has a different lived experience and reasons they believe the things that they do. So that one, I'm doing Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And then I'm trying to think of, there's definitely another book I'm reading right now that I can't something creative, something about creativity and kind of like sparking that in yourself, which I did want to bring up, that we are sharing these books. And one of the most important lessons I've learned in life as an adult, but most recently, is that I've had like very, I don't know, a lot of stress lately. And I feel like I've lacked creativity. I've kind of been like, what's my purpose in life sort of thing. As soon as I went on a freaking hike this weekend for 5 hours in nature with no device, no phone service, beautiful weather, and nothing but the sound of my thoughts and the trees blowing in the wind, I had so many like ideas and epiphanies and creativity. Literally, I told my husband to stop on the hike and I'm like, I need to like voice memo and word vomit these things that are coming to me right now so that I can get them out and be present again. But it was fascinating. And we are so go and on and stimulated that it's also important to consume information and condition your brain and do those things, but also like just give yourself space to like be present and live and
implement the stuff you learn.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to become I'm going to watch all these YouTube videos. Okay, I'm going to read this book. And now I'm going down this rabbit hole. And it's like, time out. Have you applied the thing you just learned from that last 5 self-help books, right? Like, so yeah, actually implementing a new habit into your life and then live for a couple months and see how it develops, having that new habit in your life, right? I think that's a really, really important caveat.
Which is why, and it can be really why I love coaching, because it can be hard to be objective of yourself. But like, I have this client who keeps apologizing. She's like, I feel like I dump so much on you every week. And I'm like, that's literally the purpose, is for you to dump and check in. And we dissect and say, what keeps showing up for you? What is holding you back the most? And what's most important to focus on right now? And then we ignore the other stuff for a second until we're on that chapter and at that place. And that's the beauty of like coaching or having that outside support. And you certainly obviously can read and consume and implement yourself. But like, yeah, some of these books, I love coaching so much.
Some of these books are things that we've read like when we were in high school. Like these are books, you're hearing us brain dump things that have been cumulatively impactful over 20 years. Like this is not books we've read last year. And again, I just want to say that we've read other books that weren't impactful at all. Right. So yeah, give yourself time to absorb whatever it is, whatever information you're consuming from anywhere.
And if you're not sure, if you're listening to this episode and being like, you just said so many, you listed so many, I don't know what to do, message us and say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I feel like I'm struggling with. Like, which one do you recommend starting with? Or if you picked one and read it, like, obviously we would love to hear like what you chose. Or if there's another one that's not on the list that you're like, well, this one was really helpful for me, share it.
We have like a list of like 25 runner-ups that did not make this list that we wrote down. Like, well, this one was good at the time, but like, yeah, these were the ones that we felt like, okay, right now, either we're reading right now or they were most impactful.
Yes, like over time. or
Very
easy
good.
reads. Yeah, no, but I feel like it's funny. We did our independent lists, and then when we came together, I was like, shocked.
Half of them overlapped. Yeah.
A lot of them overlapped. So, yeah, I don't know if you could pick one. Do you think
For everybody who's listening, for our audience, not for my own favorite, but for our audience, I would say go read Atomic Habits right now, because most of you are listening because you want to become healthier, or you want to improve your metabolism, or you want to get lean, or whatever the case may be, or you're a coach listening to us as coaches. So I would say Atomic Habits is probably the number one.
you haven't read that? Yeah, I would say that's a go-to, which is obviously why I send that. And then Chop Wood, Carry Water, I think if I could pick one. I was about to give a caveat and I can't. I have to pick one. So I'm going to say Chop Wood, Carry Water outside of Atomic Habits. So hopefully that was helpful. I feel like we get a lot of questions within our client community about stuff like this. So we'll have the list in the caption for you guys. And again, if you have questions or thoughts or recommendations, or feel like you need direction, obviously always reach out to us on Instagram. And yeah, we hope that was helpful. Again, a little bit different of a podcast episode than what we usually do, but
please give us feedback. I mean, in the DMs, message Jill, tag the Reality Check Podcast Instagram. But we love to hear which of these episodes make the most impact for you guys. And if you have episode requests, we have an ongoing list where we just dump ideas that people message us. So please give us that feedback so that we can make sure we're sharing the information that you guys find most helpful.
Yeah, that's like most applicable for you. So that is all for today's episode, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.